Okay, we're going to step out of the State Capture Commission of Inquiry just to take a quick reaction on the decision, or should I say the judgment handed down by the Constitutional Court this morning around the attempts to have former President Jacob Zuma appear before the commission itself. And we are joined now by Professor Tinyiko Maluleke, political analyst. Prof, thank you very much for your time. I think you were listening to that ConCourt judgment. What stood out for you among all these orders that were issued by the court? I don't want to give you my list, but perhaps give me yours that stand out for you right now.
Well, Tony, it is a massive blow and a serious setback to the strategy that the Zuma legal team and himself have adopted going forward. The strategy was to ignore, to walk out, to refuse to answer questions if was to come. All of the above have been rejected totally and thoroughly by the Constitutional Court. They have virtually granted everything that was asked of them by the commission, the Zondo Commission, and it is back. It's not even back to the drawing board. It is back to the commission for former President Jacob Zuma. In fact, I was struck by the extent to which, in the judgment, the commission was given a tongue lashing for being too lenient with the former president and causing some of the problems that they have ended up with by themselves because they did not treat him like they would have treated many of their own witnesses. So it's a huge loss for the former president.
So, Prof, you touch on a very important point because the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture has been slated by those who are in the corner of the former president to say it's been unfair, it's been prejudicial, and this is why perhaps the former president sought for the Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo to recuse himself. But when you hear commentary like that to say the reason the commission finds itself where it is right now is because it was simply too lenient on the former president, what becomes of those arguments?
Well, the problem is that, we are a divided nation when it comes to the assessment and the actions and the accusations against former President Zuma. It seems to me that there are those who will defend him to the hilt, who will be with him regardless of the facts on the table. Yeah. And similarly, there are those who just don't like the man. So emotionally, we are divided as a nation regarding this man, our former president. But this is not about emotion. This is about the Constitutional Court ruling. They are saying to the nation that the commission erred in having tried to be lenient with the president and that the former president took advantage of that. And that the commission is to blame because they could have issued summons to him much earlier. What took them so long? That was what the judgment was saying. And look now where you are. You've caused a problem for yourselves. So it's not about emotions. It's facts that the Constitutional Court has found this to have been the case.
Prof, I'm going to ask you to stay exactly where you are. Let's bring into the conversation my colleague Ziyanda Ngcobo, the senior political reporter at the Constitutional Court. Ziyanda, is there a way forward, a legal way forward for the Zuma legal team right now? Are you hearing anything?
Well, at this particular point in time, Xoli, nothing yet from Zuma's legal team, but judging from what we know in terms of how the courts work, this is the apex court of the land. The constitutional court is where the buck stops, and this is precisely why then the inquiry petitioned the court directly, because of the time constraints that the Commission of Inquiry faces, having to complete its work by March. I think another important thing that came out today from that judgment is the issue of the former president being able to remain silent when he appears before the commission, unless he is able to justify the circumstances within which he would be incriminating himself for if he testifies. Now, this is probably the only gap or the only space then within which the former president could use, now being able to have to now explain according to the section that was outlined by Justice Jaftha as to how the former president would be implicating himself. You'll remember, Xoli, that Justice Raymond Zondo has made an impassioned plea that people come forward to actually testify so that he's able to give a well-rounded report, so that once he releases it, he doesn't have faced the issue of having people delegitimize his report because it's without gaps or it's without the other side of the story, which is primarily why then, Xoli, they've actually taken this matter of the former president seemingly reluctant to appear before the commissions to the courts of the land, because as Justice Jaftha said, the former president is at the center of allegations before the Commission of Inquiry.
Yeah, and let's have a listen perhaps very briefly to some of what was said by the ConCourt.
Mr. Jacob Zuma is ordered to obey all summonses and directives lawfully issued by the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into allegations of state capture, corruption, and fraud in the public sector, including organs of state. 5. Mr. Jacob Zuma is directed to appear and give evidence before the Commission on dates determined by it. 6. It is declared that Mr. Jacob Zuma does not have a right to remain silent in proceedings before the Commission. 7. It is declared that Mr. Jacob Zuma is entitled to all privileges under Section 3 sub 4 of the Commissions Act, including the privilege against self-incrimination. 8. Mr. Jacob Zuma must pay the Commission's costs in this court, including costs of 2 counsel.
Ziyanda Ngcobo, let's wrap up with you. Was there a legal person representing the former president at the ConCourt, or is the reason why you are unable to give us their legal strategy from here on primarily because there was no one there?
Well, Xoli, they were not even here on the 29th of December when this matter was brought before the Constitutional Court. Zuma's lawyers did indicate that they wouldn't be participating in the proceedings. In fact, Justice Jaftha did reflect on that when he was beginning the handing down of his judgment, to say that the lawyers actually did say that they were aware of the implications of not giving their side of the story or rebutting then what Advocate Thembeka Ngcukaitobi would be presenting before the Constitutional Court. In fact, they said they would not be participating, and this has been the trajectory even on the 5th in January this month, when the former president was meant to appear before the Commission of Inquiry, using the pending judgment that was handed down today as the reason for not doing so. So certainly I will be seeking a reaction as to where to from here, but I suspect it will just be that small margin or that gap then on whether or not he will be incriminating himself if he does appear before the Commission.
Yeah. All right. Ziyanda Ngcobo, thank you very much at the Constitutional Court. Prof, let's wrap up with you, and I'm going to ask you to do the most difficult of things, and that is to try and look into the crystal ball of the Zuma legal team. You've already said this is possibly at the end of the road in as far as these strategies by the former president are concerned. But perhaps most concerning for him is that he does not have a right to remain silent, although the court does say the privilege against self-incrimination, I think that still remains open to him.
Yes. So what we are likely to see, Xoli, is probably a very, very tactical appearance by him before the commission, where most of the questions will be answered by something to the effect that I will not speak to that in case I incriminate myself. I think we are likely to hear that more often than anything if indeed he proceeds with the strategy of silence, because there are many ways of being silent. One can be silent by not saying anything, or be silent by saying, I won't speak because I am afraid I might incriminate myself. So that's likely to happen, I think, in the next time when he appears. It is what makes this difficult, Xoli, is that this is the constitutional court of the country. So there is no court higher than this. And by going to this court, the commission has really closed all loopholes, legal loopholes, because there's nowhere else to go for that team but to comply. Yeah. And I think that they will try and comply in a manner that favors them within the confines of this current ruling. And I suspect that it will be self-incrimination. Therefore, we are not going to answer that kind of approach.
Prof, I cannot not ask you this question. I know I said it was my final question to you, but politically, we've already heard threats from people like Carl Niehaus that should the former president ever be arrested, there might be civil war in this country. Is that where perhaps we should start looking to say, might the former president test whether or not he still has much favor with ordinary South Africans? Might that be an avenue he explores politically to say, could this country teeter on the brink of instability should I be arrested?
Well, I don't think we are at the point of him or anyone being arrested here. Remember, this is a commission of inquiry. All we're talking about is whether he is willing or not willing to be a witness. And now he is being forced by court order to go and be a witness at a commission of inquiry. That's all that's happening here. He's not being arrested. He's not being found guilty of anything. He is simply being compelled to render witness in a judicial commission of inquiry. So that's the bottom line. And I don't think this should be taken to mean either that he has been found guilty. Of course, it's going to cost him money because he's also been ordered to pay the costs for this judgment. Yeah. But all he must do is go and appear and give evidence. Now, if he goes to the street, to the court of public opinion to campaign, that will be something else. But I don't think that we should blow what has happened today up into out of proportion, as it were, because all the court is saying is go and be witness. That's all. It's not an arrest. It's not a guilty finding. It's nothing like that.
Yeah, Prof, finally, the political home to which the former president belongs, they are very clear that the ANC is in support of this commission, and this commission should be respected. Anyone who is accused of wrongdoing, they've got to go there if asked to go and appear. Might we see the breaking of ranks by any of its members?
difficult to foretell how this particular judgment may pan out politically inside of the ANC. As one has said, in the country, in the ANC, former President Jacob Zuma is an emotional topic for many, many members of the party and for many, many citizens of the country. So that they are divided, bitterly divided over him. But what needs to happen now, and I hope that the ANC will take the view that what has happened now is simply that he is being compelled to go and give witness. Yeah. He has not been found guilty. So I don't know that there should be any further compulsion on him by the party or anyone since the court has done that.
Yeah. Prof, thank you very much for your time and indeed your patience. Your insights always invaluable indeed. Thank you very much for your time, Professor Tinyiko Maluleke.